Number 3 says, which of the following function is not always true? So we're looking for something that is not necessarily true. Let's take a look at A. A says, if a function contains the origin, then its inverse contains the origin. So let's interpret that. What it means is, if you have something that goes through the origin, for example, this parabola goes through the origin, the inverse is actually reflected across this diagonal line here. So the inverse would look something like this. So it is true that if the function goes through the origin, that the inverse is also going through the origin. So A is actually true. So we're looking for something that is false, because we're looking for something that is not true, and we know that A is true, so that is out of the question. Then we can take a look at B, and it says, if a function has 3 x-intercepts, then its inverse has 3 y-intercepts. So let's take a look at a function that has 3 x-intercepts. So for example, we can have 1, 2, and 3 x-intercepts here. And again, the inverse is reflected across this line y equal to x. And so the reflection will look something like this, reflected across like a mirror image. So therefore, if the original function has these as x-intercepts here, then the inverse has these y-intercepts, and that would also be a true statement. So therefore, again, we're looking for a false statement. The true statement is eliminated. And that would only leave us C as a possible answer choice. And so let's take a look at C. It says, if the slope of a linear function is less than 1, then the slope of its inverse is greater than 1. So let's take a look at this graph that actually has a slope that is less than 1. Let's make it a negative. So I have this function that goes through the origin, the slope would be going down 1 over 3. So this is the line that would make. So actually I can name this equation y equals negative 1/3 x. Well, if I want to use algebra to find out the slope of the inverse, then I'm going to actually use the inverse method to find the inverse. So I'm going to solve for x in this new equation. So I would need to multiply both sides by negative 3. So I have negative 3y is equal to x. The next step is to interchange the x and y, since x is already by itself. So negative 3x is equal to y, and I'm going to make the y f of inverse, and that will be negative 3x. Now looking at this new equation, let's clean it up a little bit and make it y equals negative 3x. And if we look at the slope, it is actually negative 3. So we have found at least one example that this is not true. So therefore this will be false, because the slope is negative 3, which is not greater than 1 as it is stated in the statement. So therefore C is false, and that is the answer.